Hi again, everybody. Jeremy Plonk with First Bet and Express Bet, joined by Jeff Siegel on It's Official, our weekly banner show. We want to give a special welcome to all of those of you watching within the Wager Guide, the first Kentucky Derby Wager Guide, and checking out all the picks for Derby 149 coming up on Saturday. Jeff, we usually take on 5 topics around the racing industry, but we are focused on just one race this week.
It is the Kentucky Derby, and I will lead by telling everybody the weather. Everybody wants to know the weather for Kentucky Derby. The latest, which will change tomorrow and the next day, will be as followed. Some rain developing on Oaks Day. Of course, what would Oaks Day be without rain, right? Not a lot, but some. Maybe a quarter of an inch Friday night, but clearing out, cloudy on Saturday, but no rain. And you know how well that Churchill Downs racetrack takes water, so we should have ideal conditions for Saturday. No excuses. We'll get that out of the way, and hopefully that's what it'll be. But 20 horses as of right now. So far, no defections from the 20 that were entered. So we'll see if that holds up. But in the meantime, we've got a very competitive and outstanding gambling opportunity here. And for me, anyway, I may win, I may lose, but I got some good price horses that I think are going to run huge. And I'll tell you about it during the next 25, 30 minutes or so.
That sounds good. Let's get to our first of 5 topics this week. And on Monday, they had the post position draw for the Kentucky Oaks and the Kentucky Derby. Let's talk Kentucky Derby draw winners and losers, Jeff. There were 23 overall, 20 in the main body of the field. 3 of the also eligibles, including Cyclone Mischief in the 21 post, the Japanese horse, Mandarin Hero in the 22, and King Russell 23. But let's stick with the main body. We'll talk also eligibles like last year when necessary. But as far as the post draw goes here, Jeff, what are your initial thoughts?
I don't think anybody has too much to complain about. There are some horses that drew less than ideal posts. Hit Show, of course. What is it now? 36 and counting for the rail, losing the Derby. Yeah. So Hit Show is stuck there. I didn't think he was going to have much of a say in it. Verifying is down in the 2-hole. That's not ideal. Tapit Trice, I would have liked to have seen him draw better being outside. He's got a chance. There's a chance for him to get shuffled back and take a lot of dirt early and lose position. He did have the rail last time out at Keeneland and managed to work himself to the outside into the clubhouse turn and get a great trip thereafter. So I'm not sure if that's going to be feasible with 20 horses in the race. So I would have liked to have seen him draw better. Practical Move is where he wants to be. I don't think there's an issue for Forte. And I actually like the way where Derma Sotogati drew. I don't think he'll be in front, but he's got a chance if there's no pressure from the outside, which as at this stage there doesn't appear to be much. I think Derma Sotogaki's got a chance to draft over and get a position in the clear. I think he can win that way. He's won that way in Japan, doesn't need the lead. I think he's going to have clear sailing and every chance from there. So not too many complaints, Jeremy. How did you see it?
Well, I'll throw a little stat at you. Everybody talks about Ferdinand, the last horse to win the Derby from the rail in 87. You know who's the last horse to win from the 2-hole?
No.
Affirmed in 1978. It's been even longer. And the last out of the 3-hole was real quiet in 1998. So the inside 3 posts haven't won a Derby since 1998. Tough down in there. I agree with you. I think Tapit Trice probably is the loser of the post draw here because of the post 5. He's a big, long striding horse. I think he wants to get outside of runners. I know he won from the rail at Keeneland and he passed those tests, but that's a different ball game. You say, well, what's so bad about the 5? There's still 15 horses outside of him, right? If you drew the rail in a 16-horse field, you wouldn't like to be in that particular spot. So Tapit Trice is going to have to get out a lot, and to get that long stride going, it might take a while. Now, he's going to have to get some pace, obviously, to do his best running and get that loping stride in gear and then start to move on the backstretch and into the far turn. It can happen. It can work for him, but I would have wished he was farther outside. Forte, on the other hand, the 15 seems beautiful for a similar style, I think, to Tapit Trice. And he just gets to come out of there and see what happens and let it all go. It's interesting to me, the 2 Japanese horses are to the outside, 17 and 20, with Continuar the far outside and the 17 for Derma Sotogaki. They both had some forward speed about them. what point do they start clearing over on the field and start coming over, in that run through the stretch the first time? Do they saw some horses off along the way and cause a little chain reaction? That tends to happen in the Kentucky Derby. That would be the only danger spot, I think, for Forte in the 15 is if the 17-20 start that crossover thing, and you might get shuffled back. But I don't think he's going to break in the same time zone with those two horses. So I think it's probably a safe trip for him. I think it's a good trip for Forte. Back to the field just for a sec. Others, I think, Verifying, I think that's a very tough spot. I thought he was a horse who was going to show some pace in this race. From the 2 now, I think that's going to kind of get ratcheted up. Confidence game down to the inside. We'll talk pace in this segment coming up in a little bit in more detail. I'm not wild about those horses that are down to the inside. I think almost all those horses down to the inside would have been better off somewhere else. Hit Show is going to be back towards the back anyway. He'll just drop out the back end. So interesting post draw. I don't think there's any huge change or any advantage to some horses, but I do think Forte kind of won in the 15, and I think his stablemate Tapit Trice, those are the 2 favorites. Tapit Trice probably got the worst of it, maybe, of any of the big players. Two Phils is another one. Look, Two Phils is coming off that race at Turfway. He's been on the dirt before. They get dirt kicked in their face. It's a little different than what he got on the synthetic last time. In the 3-hole, is Two Phils fast enough to extract himself out of there and get good position, or is that going to become a chain reaction and bumper cars for him? Next thing you know, you're getting caked with dirt from 14 horses in front of you as you get shuffle back. Think Mo Donegal last year. He broke well from the rail, but before they got to the wire the first time, he was like that, through the back of the field as somebody else took his position each time. So it'll be interesting to see with the post position draw how it affects the outcome of the race. Let's go to our second topic on the board this week, and overlay, underlay. We're going to play a little prices right here. I don't know if you like the Drew Carey version. You want the Bob Barker version. I'm probably built more like Drew Carey than Bob Barker. So let's see which prices right here, Jeff, as we look at the field for the Kentucky Derby. This is in order of odds here. So we stagger to the top with Forte, the 3-1 favorite, all the way through the 50-1 bombs, 5 of those at the bottom. Let's play a little prices right, Jeff. 3-1 on Forte. What are you thinking?
I don't think he'll be any lower than that. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if he's 7-2, maybe even 4-1. Now, maybe I'm wrong about that because his resume is so strong. But there are things to be concerned about with Forte with regards to, for example, his speed figures are dropping. He doesn't advertise himself in the morning with any great breezes or anything like that. So I think people are looking at a 20-horse field and saying, why am I taking the favorite? I mean, I'll take a favorite if it's a Justify or American Pharaoh or one of those, but I'm not sure Forte's in that level. So I think he's probably going to be an underlay. In the wagering guide that we wrote up already, I kind of left him out, and I've not changed my mind here, especially at 3-1. The other horse that I think might be underlaid, and I'm saying he's not a good colt, but at 8-1, Angel of Empire to me is lower than I think his odds should be. Not necessarily what it will be, but I've really put the magnifying glass on him, and I realize I'm looking at Angel of Empire as much as I like his last race from a visual standpoint. I mean, beating King Russell and Reincarnate and Sun Thunder, that doesn't do a whole lot for me. Numbers-wise, he's much slower than the major contenders. Here's another thing that I want. This is a racetrack rumor. I can't necessarily 100% guarantee that it's true, but it's rumors, and people love rumors, and I want to throw it out there, and you can figure out whether or not you buy it or not. But a lot of people are going to look at Angel of Empire and like him because Flavian Pratt jumped off King's Barnes to ride him. And that tells me, at least without knowing anything, that maybe he likes Angel of Empire over King's Barnes. Well, I was told by someone who knows somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody who thinks he knows somebody that the reason he did that was that he is a little more loyal to Brad Cox. In fact, his true feeling is that he thinks King's Barnes might actually even be better. So there's a little bit of, I'll just throw it out there. You can take it or leave it. So I'm not that high in Angel of Empire at 8-1. I think he should be 12, 15-1, especially when I see some other horses in the field that I think are at least as good, if not better, that are twice the price.
All right, let's go back and look at these odds a little bit more. And that's the Derby and post position. Back to the Derby in odds order. Where do you think the overlays may stand here? Which horses should be lower than what the morning line is, or what you project they will be? Of course, the morning line is just Mike Battaglia's projection of what the public is going to do. Mike making his 50th morning line for the Kentucky Derby. And again, I want to give a shout out to my buddy Mike. I texted him yesterday, congratulating 50 years doing anything in this game or any industry. It is a fantastic milestone, and it's a testament that you are a good person who gets along with people over multiple generations. Do you think how many different bosses he's had at Churchill Downs since 1973, 74? Yep. I mean, and so he has gotten along with everybody. He's one of the absolute great guys in the game. Mike Battaglia, just a guy I love. And so salute to him, 50 years doing the morning line for the Kentucky Derby. Hey, look, we all quibble with prices here and there. I've got quibbles with some of the horses and the odds in this particular race, but what I do as an analyst or a handicapper and what he does as a morning line maker, that's what makes the that's what makes the game go, disagreement. So where do we disagree a little bit here, Jeff, on what we're going to end up with? Who are the overlays?
Well, I don't know if he'll be any less or more than 20-1, but I certainly think Skinner's got a better chance than 20-1. He's in my top 4. And of course, he was lucky enough to draw in last week. I think there's an overlay, not necessarily what he'll be on the tote, but what I think his chances are. So that's a good gamble. I certainly think he's got every bit as chance of winning this race as, say, Angel of Empire, and you're getting more than twice the price. I think Practical Move at 10-1 is a solid price there. Again, I'm not saying he'll go lower, but I think he's got a decent sort of chance. The other one I would throw in, and I'm actually thought that he might be bigger than 20-1, is Confidence Game. I kind of dismissed him early on because he won his last prep on the wet track, but boy, he's trained well. He's got enough tactical speed to be within range. He didn't change leads in the off track when he won his last race, but he did in the breeze when he went in 59. It looked really good, and I think he's going to be forwardly placed. So in terms of an overlay, again, I don't think he'll be much less than 20-1, but I think he's got a little bit better chance than 20-1. So those are some of the real good price horses that I like, and of course my top pick is 10-1 in the morning line, Dermot Sotogake, and there's nothing wrong with that either. So there are plenty of good prices here to latch onto, and whether or not they're going to go lower on the tote or not remains to be seen. But even if they don't, there's still value.
Confidence Game's getting a lot of chatter. He seems to be, as Bob Newmeyer used to call him, the she horse in the Derby. You know, who's everybody talking about, and who's the the one everybody's whispering about? It seems like Confidence Game's getting a lot of that. I don't get it, Jeff. I just don't. I mean, he won the Rebel, a second-tier prep race, right? And the Rebel is supposed to get you to the first-tier prep races. Right. He's been laid off over 10 weeks. This is so unconventional. I mean, have we just blown up the whole freaking box? Is that what we've done here and just said, like, it doesn't matter if a horse debuted in January 28th. It doesn't matter if, they haven't run in 10 weeks. I mean, are we just looking at this like they're, like pawns on a chessboard, and we're going to move them around to where we need them? Don't you have to prepare? I mean, don't you have to prepare to win this race? I know what Baffert did. Nobody else has done what Baffert's done. And Baffert's not allowed back right now for some of what he did, I mean, so I don't know. I mean,
here's the thing. Look, what you said is 100% correct. Okay. The only way Confidence Game wins this race or runs well in the race is there are two things. He projects to get a very comfortable trip, number one. And number two is he has to be better now than he was then. Okay. But he's a candy ride colt, and he's training really well. What you see in the form in February may not be what you get now. Now, he might run 14th, okay, which is why you have to demand a big price.
Right.
But I do think that he has some upside that some of the others who I think I know what they're capable of doing that don't have. In other words, I think I could see him rise up considerably. Maybe not, but some of these others, I like, for example, a horse like Verifying. I know he's 15-1. He's less price than Confidence Game.
Right.
Verifying, if he's a good colt, he beats Tapit Price last time out. He just does with that perfect pace stalking trip with nobody in his way. A 48, 112. He couldn't win that race going a mile and 8. Now he's in the 2-hole.
Yeah,
as you pointed out, hasn't won whatsoever, and he's going a mile and a quarter with all the pressure on the outside.
Right.
So he's 15-1. So I'm looking, I would rather take confidence game at 20, maybe up to 25 or 30 than whatever verifying might go off at. So I'm using it from that standpoint. And again, confidence game does not have to win this race. You could run second, third, or fourth and be worthwhile if you're playing exactas, tries, or supers. So all I'm asking to do is to maybe run better than that, and then he creates value.
For the sake of all things holy and good about the Derby Trail, I hope he runs 15th, because otherwise, if he can win off a 10-week layoff and you can win with 2 or 3 starts starting in February, we're going to have a horse debut February 8th, run back February 29th, and then shut it down for the Derby from here forward. I just hate that. One thing that I found interesting, the last several Derby winners have had 3 preps or 4 preps within the same calendar year than the 2 prep. We talked about, these 2 prep. I think it's the last 4 or 5 in a row have all been horses that raced 3 or 4 times getting into the Derby. So while we're kind of relying on what we remember from like 2017, 2018, the last 3, 4, 5 years have kind of shunned a little bit of that. It's been kind of the horses who have been running that have done something. I don't know. I mean, I know this stuff is cyclical, but I also know fitness is fitness and endurance and strength and everything it takes. It just, to me, common sense tells me you got to bang a little bit before you get to the Derby. You can't win it in the layup line. You got to be in some games, You can't go from the layup line to game 7. That's what I'm saying. You got to get pounded a little bit. So let's see what happens. Overlay, underlay, good discussion to have. We could probably go the half hour on that, but that's what it's all about for people out there. That's what you need to evaluate, whether it's the Kentucky Derby or any race on a Tuesday at Santa Anita or Tuesday at Mahoning Valley and a Saturday at Santa Anita. Overlays, underlays, where's the value, right? Don't bet horses that are too short of a price for what you think, and don't be scared of a horse who's a better price than what you think they should be offering. Those are the ones you want to jump in. So good discussion there. Jeff and I in a little bit of disagreement when it comes to some of these, but confidence game, tap it, tries, verifying for me are all horses I think are lower than they should be.
Yeah.
I think that their prices are a little shorter than they should be. I look for them to go a little higher, and I would argue, because I think he's going to go off a little higher price than the morning line, I would argue that Forte is good value in this spot. Mm-hmm. He reminds me a lot of Orb. When Orb won the Kentucky Derby as the favorite at 5.5 to 1 back in 2013, I don't know what people weren't buying that year, and I'm not quite sure they're not buying it with Forte. 4-time Grade 1 winner. He's won all the big dances. The Florida Derby's the key prep historically, all time. More Florida Derby alumni have won the Kentucky Derby than any other race. I don't know what we're punching holes in with Forte. And had he won the last race by 4 instead of a neck, we'd be talking about him like we were talking about him as point given price after the Fountain of Youth. Could he go 9 to 5? Could he be 9 to 5 in the Kentucky Derby? So I don't know. I think Forte is going to actually be a little bit of an overlay because I think he's going to go off higher than that 3 to 1.
Yeah,
I think he's going to go up. The bottom's going to push, right? There's not going to be 550 to 1 shots like we've got. Let's go back to that graphic there again. Yeah, the 550 to 1 shots. Reincarnate's going to be lower than 50 to 1. Jason's Road's got a lot of celebrity ownership. His influencers have like 5 million followers between them. He's going to get some money in there. There's going to be some other horses that get bet. And the factor from last year, we talked about this a couple different times, though, the post long shot Derby, right? Last year we saw Rich Strike at 80 to 1 plus when those high prices are going to get a little more coverage this year than they should. When that happens, that lifts the price on the bottom. So I think you're looking at like 4 to 1, 9 to 2, even maybe on Forte. And if that's the case, then I think he's good value.
Well, if you like him to win, but I do think you're right in the sense that I think he's never going to go lower than 3 to 1. Might drift. Forte's buyer numbers, and I'm not saying that they're stock. I'm just telling you how it affects the betting more than anything else.
I know, but yeah, you're right. No, you're
Forte has gone from 98 to 95 this year, and he's 3 to 1 on the morning line. And then you look at a horse like Practical Moves, got paired up 100 buyer numbers in his last 2 starts. He's won his last 3 and undefeated around 2 turns. I don't know why he would be 10 to 1 and Forte 3 to 1. Forte has got a better resume, but not by that much. And here's the other thing that bothers me about Forte is the way Mage went by him like he was standing still at the 5/16th pole. The acceleration that Forte needs to have in this race wasn't there. Now he came back again, or did the other horses come back to him last 8th and 13th? So that concerns me with Forte. But again, he's a pro. He's a racehorse. He's a champion for a reason. He's only been beaten once. So I'm not saying he can't win. I'm betting against him because of the price, not because I think he's not a good colt, because he's obviously a very good colt.
Sure. No, we're having fun with the debate. That's what it's all about.
Right.
Respect to all the contenders that made it this far to the Kentucky Derby. They've all got credentials to them. Now let's talk pace projection in this year's Derby. If you thought we were a little undecided on who the overlays and underlays were, well, how the heck is this race going to set up, Jeff Siegel? I tried to put this graphic together amongst the horses who have shown speed and maybe projected to show speed, the pressers, who are the horses who want to sit just behind them, the middle packers, the horse is going to be in that, 10 to 16 range. And then the deep closers who bring up the rear of the field. They are with their post position numbers. I know I posted something on Twitter about a week or so ago before the post was drawn. And the two changes I made to it, Jeff, were moving Verifying Confidence Game up. Confidence Game, one, for the way he's training and the freshness that he's showing. I think he's going to be eager early in the race. And now he draws the 4-hole. He's going to have to show some speed out of there. And Verifying, I moved up a couple places too because of that 2-hole. He's got to get out of there. He's got to get extracted from any trouble down inside. He's got natural speed anyway. He's got a stablemate to the inside with no speed at all in hit show. So Verifying is going to be up against the pine, and he's going to have a lot of horses leaning on him. He's got to go a little bit faster than projected. So that makes a little bit more, I think, in the speed category than initially thought. Now, with Derma Sotogake out in the 17, do you think they send here and try to clear over, or does the outside allow them to relax a bit more? Because he's shown in various styles.
I think they will send him out of there to get position, but I don't think they expect him to go to the front. But they don't want him far back either. And because he's outside, theoretically outside in the clear, send the first furlong, look over to your left, see if there's a place you can drop in. If not, at least you won't have any dirt being kicked in your face. And then eventually there's a possibility that they'll either string it out a little bit where you can drop in, or if they're going slow, then you're outside, but at least you're close up to a slow pace. Mm-hmm. So Derma Sotogake is going to be sent out of there, but I don't think he's necessarily quick enough to get to the front, nor do I think they have to get to the front. Mm-hmm. And looking at this graphic, which very well done, Jeremy, because you kind of read my mind on the placement here. But the 5 horses you've got in the speed there, of those 5, I think Reincarnate is the one that is probably going to be most committed to bust out there and try to wire the field. He's got 3 races on his chart that he went to the front early. He was beaten the neck in his debut, first time out on grass. Then he won Gate to Wire when he broke his maiden. Then he won Gate to Wire when he won the Sham. He's not sitting fourth and going to beat anybody. So you might as well try to go out there, maybe scare people away, maybe get away with a comfortable opening quarter, and then try to, keep going. I think he's committed. Verifying might be committed to lay close up, but he's not that quick unless they just strap him out of there and just sell out to go to the front. I mentioned Derma Sotogake and a stalker. Confidence Game. Now, there's one of the reasons why I think he's got a chance to outrun his odds, because he's another horse. He's got 2 races in his chart that he made the lead, and he won both of them. And he won both of them very gamely on the lead. And if you can read a racing form, I'm sure Keith will tell Graham, look, come out of the gate. I don't see a lot of speed here. Even if we're on the lead, that's okay. He's done it twice. He can run that way. But he doesn't have to be in front. But I don't want him 9th taking dirt in his face. So I think Confidence Game is committed to go to the front as well. As for Mage, we talked about him. I wouldn't mind seeing him sent. Why not? He won his only race on the lead, 7/8. He can show speed. The thing here, though, Jeremy, is no matter what happens here, I just can't see a fast pace. I just can't see it. Even if you're sent in there, these horses, there's no sprinter stretching out. There's no dyed-in-the-wool 45 and change type horse. Even if you're sent, you're not going to go that fast. So I think you've got to be in the first flight. I think the pace will be moderate, and I think the deep closers are going to have to get really lucky.
Last year we had the international horse. Was it a Japanese horse or European that went out and went the ridiculous 45 that I had, whatever. The whole thing fell apart. So who knows where it could come from, right? I mean, maybe Continuar just goes barreling from the 20 hole and pulls what last year's horse tried to do. Mage is a horse I think that has natural speed if they use it. And I look at where these horses are breaking from, Jeff. The 4, the 6, the 7, the 8, the 10, and the 12 are all horses that want to be somewhat near the lead. Jace's Road, some people think, will go to the lead. I don't think he's fast enough to get there, but he's going to try maybe to get there. Practical Moves has natural speed when he gets away cleanly. King's Barnes went to the wire to wire last time in the Louisiana Derby, but these are not fast horses, but they're like 6 horses clumped together within 8 post positions who all want to be forward. And this kind of goes back to a little bit of my quarter horse handicapping, but in quarter horse racing, we call it hooking up. When 2 fast horses are drawn next to each other, if you like the 5, you better like the 4 and the 6, because they kind of bring each other along, and they bring the competitiveness out of each other. And this big Kentucky Derby field with 6 horses all in that same clump together in the same part of the track, the first quarter mile, trying to go for position. Maybe they drag some each other along, and instead of becoming a 3-horse lead group, we've got 5 in the lead group, and they're going slow, but it's at least competitive, right? It's not how fast you go, it's how you go fast, as the trainers like to tell you. So if 5 of them are going out there, but they're not going that fast, it'll still be competitive. And then that will give those come from behinders a little bit of a chance in terms of the pace. I don't think you can pace handicap this race with a lot of confidence. I really don't. I mean, Derma Sotogake, they could just commit and go to the front again and say it was good enough to win in Saudi Arabia, and that's what we're and in the UAE, and that's what we're going to try to do again. I mean, you see these works. I mean, like you mentioned to me a little while ago, his last work, 2 works back, he worked again this morning, but it was solo this morning. But his work 2 back, they put him behind a horse and tried to tackle another. Is that in preparation for what's to come, you think, on Saturday?
I do. And especially since he worked so well doing that. I watched that work. I got him from the last 3/8 and 34 and change in that work, the interiors, because they went off real slow. Right. And then he kind of galloped out without being pressured. But I think they, especially from the 17 hole, you're going to say, look, you go out there, if nobody goes and they hand you the lead, great. But don't expect that to happen. So, but here's when you talk about those clump of speed horses together, I could see, especially because he's outside, he says, okay, you guys go. I'm going to sit out there just like that workout. Right. One of the far turn, I'm going to go, and see if I can do that. So that's why I thought he won the draw, because now he can run like they trained him to run. Yeah. And that sometimes doesn't work out. If he'd been drawn inside, then they might be, committed to just bust out there and go, and that might not work. But you're right about the volatility of the pace, because we've kind of figured out who we think will be in the first flight. We haven't guaranteed anything about them going fast. So there's going to be a race. Right. We're going to race. And when you watch the Derby, everybody watches the first quarter of a mile really closely to see who's where. But in this particular case, it might dictate the outcome, don't you think? Mm-hmm.
It could, because I think you're going to have, if you have a clump, then you're going to have a lot of wide horses on the clubhouse turn. And there is nothing. I used to be a chart caller for Equibase and chart a couple thousand races. There is nothing more detrimental than losing ground on the first turn of a 2-turn race, because nothing is ever won there. Yeah. But a lot of races are lost there. You don't want to give away ground there. If you give away ground on the far turn, it could keep you from losing momentum, and you rally and you're never impeded, and you can go wide and still be successful. There is no good reason to be wide on the first turn. It's all negative. And so there might be, if these horses are clumped going into the clubhouse turn, it makes for a pretty shot with the spires in the background and that historic view. Right. But you don't want to be that horse who's 7 wide coming around the first turn, and you still got 7/8 of a mile to run and a long way still to go. We've got a ways to go on the show here, so let's go to topic number 4 next up. We've gone through the pace, the overlays and underlays, and the draw. Now let's buy or sell some of these leading contenders. We're going to start here, Jeff, with Forte, the favorite in the morning line. We talked about him a little bit already. Let's get to Forte's workout here on April 29th at Churchill Downs. Video here courtesy of the folks at Churchill Downs. And Forte to the outside in this work, Jeff, and he's working with Equivoque, a horse for Todd Pletcher, who's running in an allowance race number 13, the get out special after the Derby on Saturday. What do you make of the work here with Forte?
It's all right. He's not that flashy. I'm not going to neg it. He's doing what was asked of him. He's not pulling the jock out of the saddle or anything like that. I mean, he's kind of a laid-back type of horse, but nothing in this workout would lead me to believe that he's going to run any better than he's been running. And maybe what he's been running is good enough. I mean, that's the handicapping part of it. But that's a decent sort of colt he's working with, too. It's not some claimant horse. That's a nice horse on the inside. I don't think he's going to run any better. He may. I've underestimated him throughout his career, and I've done it this many times. Might as well do it one more time and underestimate him again. But I'm going to. I'm going to sell him only because he's going to be the favorite. I don't mind taking the favorite in the Derby if it's Justify or American Pharaoh or somebody who I really, really like. I even really loved Always Dreaming for some reason, and he ended up winning. And he ended up going favorite, I think. But this is the favorite that I'm not that enamored with, and I'm not going to say, oh, he can't win. I would never say that. But I'm going to sell him at 3-1 or 7-2 and hope to be right.
We're going to disagree on this one. I'm going to buy Forte. He's kind of been that top-ranked, unflattering kind of horse where everybody's just like, he's just resume, and there's not as much sizzle to it as his record indicates. I get the feeling that there's more to him than just the record and resume, and I'm going to buy Forte as we go into this year's Kentucky Derby. Now let's talk Practical Move, winner of the Santa Anita Derby. Certainly want to shout out to Millie Ball, our contemporary with First Family of Tracks, and they're at Santa Anita with you, and her husband Tim Yakteen is Millie will be giving us some reports from on site at Churchill a little bit later this week. There you see settling into the stall at Churchill. Jeff, your thoughts, buying or selling Practical Move on Saturday?
I'm going to buy him at 10-1. Although I would be a little bit more surprised if he won than I would be if he finishes off the board. I think he's going to hit the board. I think he's too genuine. He's too consistent. He's got a great tactical speed to keep him out of trouble. He tries hard. I don't know about 1.25 miles, but I think his class will carry him to the wire and at least be in the frame. I would be surprised he's never really run a bad race, and all of his two-turn races are good. And I loved his last breeze. We saw it when he worked last week in 59. And worked with Kangaroo Court, who's a really good colt, and was pulling him pretty good. He was sharp as a tack. So I'm buying him at 10-1. I'm going to use him. He's not my top pick, but he's going to be in my exactas and trifectas.
We had talked about the horses who win the San Felipe and Santa Anita Derby. There haven't been a lot of them over the years, and they've all run well in Louisville when they got there. California Chrome, Dortmund, Pioneer of the Nile. We're talking about a small list of horses going back to like 2009, but all three of those were on the board in Louisville. And I agree with you. And he may not be the winner, but he might be the most reliable horse if you're betting a high five. If you're looking at the top 5 finishers in the Derby, I don't know that I have any more confidence in anybody to run top 5. I don't know about the 1.25 miles, but everything else tells me this horse is awfully good. Historically, again, horses who have won the races that he's won have done very well here in Louisville. And it's not a shame to take a step back from the San Felipe to the Santa Anita Derby. We've seen that many times over the years. That San Felipe is often a brilliant, brilliant race, and it's hard to follow up on. If he's back on his game and trending back up towards that Santa Anita Derby, which the workouts that we've seen indicate that could be the case, I would have no surprise that Practical Move is going to have a major call from Travis Stone and Larry Colmus somewhere in the stretch. I think he's definitely part of the mix in here. I'm with you. I'm buying him, and I think he's a top 5 player. Not my pick to win the race, but if he wins, I won't be surprised. And I'll probably be as happy if he wins as any other horse in there, because of Millie and company. So really good luck to them. And let's go to our next buy or sell amongst the top players in here, Jeff. Tappet Trice, the winner of the Toyota Bluegrass Stakes. Here he is working in company. Let's see, this is earlier in the week, I believe the 29th might be this work here as well. What do you make of Tappet Trice?
He breezes really well, and I think there's a big engine there, and I think this is a colt that is going to be really tough. I was absolutely going to buy him, and I was going to stand in line to buy him, but I'm worried about the where he's drawn, and because he breaks okay. He just goes from 0 to 60 and very slow, like my old Toyota from about 30 years ago. He just doesn't accelerate leaving out of the gate, which leaves him a lot to do. And from the 5 hole, I just can envision a bad trip from him. I do think, though, he's a good colt, and I do think he's got more to give, and I do think he's going to love 1.25 miles. And nobody's trained any better than him. I mean, he's one of these colts that, if you want him working 58, I'm sure you could. There's no point in that. So I'm going to buy him reluctantly, but I'm not going to buy him unless I get a little bit of a discount. How about that? I don't like him at 5-1. I'm not sure he's going to be that price. Maybe he will be. I expect him to run well, but man, I just wish it was a smaller field and he had an outside draw or both, because then I would be backing him with confidence. So buy, but not maybe at the listed price. Maybe I can get a discount.
This one just feels so much like a Todd Pletcher. Off today, take the 5 weeks, come back at the Belmont Stakes and just be the horse for the Belmont, and buy Tapit and all that goes with it. But there's just too much that can go wrong with him from that post position, the way he breaks, the loping running style. Everybody's going to want to come down. There's a lot of speed in that neighborhood, right? We told you like 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, but like they're all going to be kind of there. And I just see him getting shuffled. It could be a tough trip for him. Maybe he comes along and runs a decent 6th or 7th. And then all of a sudden you're saying that's the Belmont horse in 5 weeks. And that seems like a really good scenario. I'm selling also for the Kentucky Derby because he's the second wagering choice. All the other factors that go with it, I'll sell on Tapit Trice. I'm in agreement there. Finally, let's go to Dermo Sotogake. Are we buying or selling? The crazy Japanese training regimen that everybody wants to talk about, Jeff. I don't know. Have we ever watched these international horses when they come and work in the U.S.? They always do stuff unconventional compared to what we're used to seeing. So I don't know why we continually be cliched in talking about how unorthodox everything is. It's kind of what we see when these type of horses come over.
Could it be maybe that we're the ones that are unorthodox? We have these guys, these trainers, they got 40 horses. They got to get them all out between, 5:30 and 9:30. They got to rush in. They got to rush out. The clock closes. They got to run that day. Most of these guys are stabled at a racetrack where they're actually racing. So they kick you off. And overseas in Europe, you can be out there all day long if you want. There's no rush. You walk a mile to the track. You spend some time. You come back. Same thing. I believe that's true in Japan. So where they train, where they give them all day. So bottom line is that we're the weird ones, not the Euros. And I think the way Dermo Sotogake has breezed, I know it's he tends to throw his head up a little bit in the morning when he's galloping. But I went back and watched his 2 races when he's running in the afternoon. And I'm talking about a race in Japan and also obviously in Dubai. You couldn't be more professional and more handy than he was in those races. I mean, he was perfect in the races, and I expect he'll be perfect here, especially with the fact that he's drawn in the 17th hole, where there should not be any situation where he's going to get any dirt in his face. I mean, he should be able to pick a spot outside and stay out there. And maybe, hopefully, for his sake, it'll thin out and he won't be way wide or packed out. You mentioned about that clubhouse turn, which could be a little dicey. But if not, I think he's going to run. I'm buying, especially at 10-1. Now, I realize the 0-for-18 from Dubai and the fact that no Japanese horses ever, won the Derby and all that stuff. That's true. And I could see him run like Mendelssohn, who was dead last after winning the same race when he ran in this Derby. I could see that happening, but I could also see him winning. So at 10-1, that dictates the price.
Right.
I'm buying him at that price. I wouldn't be buying him at 5-1, but 10-1 I could live with.
See, the key part of that equation is you said I can see him winning. Mm-hmm. A lot of these other horses who have come over never saw them winning. It was not even a thought. Because a lot of times you're not talking about horses with this kind of tactical speed, the pedigree. Like, you got a lot of American bloodlines there. It's not like all turf on turf. And Lemaire's ridden him on dirt races already. So it's not like you're bringing over some grass jockey who's just ridden the horse on the turf. This isn't Sheikh Mohammed's horses that he tried to buy and groom personally and get just to the Derby and had a failed program in doing so. That's the vast majority of the UAE Derby horses when you talk about the 0-for-16 from Dubai. So that's basically one guy couldn't figure it out. One program couldn't figure it out. Not necessarily one guy, but one program couldn't figure it out. This Japanese road through Dubai to the Derby is a little bit different path than what we're talking about on the majority of those stakes. I'm with you. I'm buying him. I think he's going to run really well. I would not be surprised if he won. I would not be surprised if he won wire to wire. I mean, he doesn't have to go to the lead. We've established that. And we've talked about that and how he very may not. but right to the front wires this field like he did the UAE Derby at a mile and 3/16, I will not be surprised. You're not going to sit there and go, how the hell did that happen? It's a plausible scenario. And in a year we say none of the U.S. horses really have any speed, King's Barnes is the only wire-to-wire winner of a major prep the whole second half of the season. Reincarnate wired the Sham at a mile in January, but nobody else wired any of these American preps. Right. So if there is an international horse who just goes out and takes it to him wire to wire, we'd all look at each other afterwards and throw our form up in the air and say, well, what did I miss? Because it was right there in front of us. He could very well just win this thing wire to wire. I wouldn't be shocked.
I think his rider's going to look over there, and if nobody goes, the first thing in his mind is going to be two things. Number one, okay, I might as well go, and number two is, I think you guys are making a mistake letting this horse go. Because we
just did this last month.
We've already seen what he did, and if you don't believe in this horse, or if you have any, just go to YouTube, look at his last race, and tell me if you don't think that version of Dermot Sadagaki is good enough to win a race like this. I mean, he was assigned a 109 time form rating in Victory, and maybe he was under pristine conditions, gate to wire, lone F, controlling speed and all that. But that's a big time form figure for these horses, and he doesn't have to run any better to win, but we'll just have to see. I know, look, 10-1.
All right.
I grabbed that. I'm buying it 10-1.
We disagree in some areas today, but we're in total agreement with that, right? If you're going to tell me our champion 2-year-old is slow on the numbers, is what you're telling me, he's no better than anybody else, then why would you take somebody from within the division, right? Take somebody from outside the division. And that makes a perfect scenario of where an international horse may finally win the Kentucky Derby is if there are no good American speed horses, because that's usually where we beat everybody. We are just faster. If we have no good speed horses this year, and the favorite's not that fast and just has a resume that's built on beating other average horses, then this is the perfect storm for an international horse to maybe win a Kentucky Derby this year. Right. To our fifth and final topic, as we think about betting the Kentucky Derby, there are ways to get into the Derby betting and out of the Derby betting. The Oaks Derby Daily Doubles, the first of those options. Jeff, you can bet the Daily Double, of course, from Friday's Kentucky Oaks into Saturday's Kentucky Derby. The morning line favorite here is Wet Paint at 5-2. I see a field with Darth Vader having what I would declare cheap speed for a mile and an eighth. I think the filly from Sunland Park is going to show cheap speed in here as well. I think this is an Oaks that's going to melt down. It sets up for a closer, and the favorite's one of the best closers we've seen in this division by a long shot in Wet Paint. How do they beat her?
I don't think they do. And here's the thing that makes me like her even more. Wet Paint, we know of her as being a deep closer. Okay, why shouldn't she be? She's by Blame out of A Mare by Street Cry. But here's the thing. She's been winning her races, and she's won her last 3 without any help up front. That's the funny thing. 48 to the half at Oakland and the Martha Washington, 48 to the half in the Honeybee, 47, 112 and 3 in the Fantasy. And she still not only is getting up, she's getting up with speed to spare and with room to spare. Now she's getting, logically, you'd expect this pace to be faster. She's also going a mile and an eighth, which she's never had the chance to do. She's getting better. She looks good in the morning, all that. I mean, do you think she's going to be 5-2? No, I would have probably laid her at 9-5, 8-5, expecting her to go 6-5. And with no real strong second choice, I think she will. But Botanical is a filly that I might save with only because she's won her last 4. All granted, they've been on the all-weather, but she's by Medaglia d'Oro and out of A Mare by Blame. She should be just as good on the dirt. I could see her. She's got the ability to go to the front, but she's definitely not a need-to-lead type. And I could see her get a jump early in the race and then get a great trip, and then maybe at the quarter pole look like locked and loaded and ready to go. And I could see Botanical, even off those all-weather races, run very well on dirt because she's bred for it. But other than that, man, I'm just, South Lawn, I don't know who she's been beating. I think it's the favorite Wet Paint, but maybe Botanical for a saver, and that's all I'm going to do.
It's the Brad Cox duo, and listen to these pedigrees, right? You got Wet Paint by Blame out of a Street Cry mare. Blame won the Breeders' Cup Classic over Zenyatta in that great performance at Churchill Downs. Street Cry won the Stephen Foster by 6 lengths in one of the most impressive eye-opening performances at Churchill by a handicap horse in decades. So that pedigree should absolutely love Churchill Downs first over the track. And then you got Botanical. All she is by Medaglia d'Oro, who sired Rachel Alexandra, Plum Pretty, Songbird, who would have been 2-5 in the Oaks if she wasn't scratched with a fever. So Medaglia d'Oro's already got a couple Oaks winners. So if you're worried about either one of those favorites, like in the track at Churchill, they certainly have the pedigree to do so in a spectacular way. I think Botanical is going to be up near the front, where she's also going to run into some of that other speed. And that's why I think the closer, this just sets up beautifully. But if Wet Paint doesn't fire Botanical up front, Brad Cox looks to have him early and late in this race. But for me, it's an absolute single in an Oaks Derby double. I'm taking Wet Paint with who you like in the Kentucky Derby. So if you're going to get, and there's multi-race 2-day wagers that involve a pick 6, a pick 3, and stuff like that, I would not mess around with anybody other than Wet Paint in the Kentucky Oaks. Now, getting out of the Derby, next up, we think Preakness. You can already bet the Preakness, Jeff, and a lot of folks are. Right now, the Preakness Future Wager, first ever offering, which began last Friday, is up and running. At last check, about noon Eastern today, there was $140,000 in the pool. That already made it bigger than Kentucky Derby Future Pool 1 and Future Pool 2 this year. We'll see if it can get up to the heights, 250,000 or so, which is a high-end big pool for the Kentucky Derby Future Wager. I think they've got a shot to get that, because you bet all the way through Saturday at 6 o'clock on the Preakness Future Wager. So post time for the Kentucky Derby is going to be about 6:55. So it's going to be before the Derby starts, but you're going to get a better sense of these horses. There are 28 wagering interests, 27 individuals, and all other 3-year-olds. And here's a look at the current odds. This is, again, with $140,000 in the pool as of noon today, May 2nd, on Tuesday, as we tape our show. Forte, the 3-1 favorite right now in the Preakness Future Wager. That may not be a great price, but if Forte wins the Kentucky Derby, he will be 3-5 in the Preakness. So if you like him to win the Derby, maybe it's a good price. But look at these others. 9-1 on Angel of Empire. Then you have a new shooter, First Mission, winner of Lexington Stakes, currently offering 10-1. Jeff, there's a scenario with the Derby finish where this horse could be 5-2 perhaps in the Preakness as the second choice.
He could, but the price up there for me, Jeremy, and remember, your horse has to run in the race. Right. And I think of the horses listed there, only one of them is likely to run back in the Preakness, and that's the winner of the Derby. And so when you're looking at this field and you're going to give me 18-1 on Mandarin Hero, who I know is going to run in this race, assuming he doesn't draw in with a miracle in the Kentucky Derby. 18-1 on a horse that almost certainly will be maybe a third of that price, potentially, based on his race in the San Antonio Derby. That's the 18-1 that I can take. And so I'm going to be, if he's anywhere close to that, that's value there. Let's not forget Mandarin Hero won the first 4 races of his life in Japan, got beat a neck in his next start, and then got beat a nose in the San Antonio Derby by Practical Move with Skinner behind him. Both Practical Move and Skinner are horses I expect to be in the frame in the Kentucky Derby, and he split them and could have won that race. And I'm getting 18-1 on a horse that I know is going to be in the race. Why wouldn't I take Mandarin Hero at that price?
No, that's an excellent point. There's some good value. Shop around. You can bet this at any wagering outlet. We'd love for you to do it at ExpressBet and FirstBet. Live odds are updated at Preakness.com. If you just want to check in, go to Preakness.com and check on the future wager. There are also bios on all 28 wagering interests, 27 individuals, and the all others that you can click and get a little meet the contenders from that Preakness future wager page and get up to speed on some of the new shooters maybe that you're not looking for here at Kentucky Derby time. So good chance to take advantage of that. Again, wagering open through Saturday at 6 o'clock, about 50 minutes or so before they run the Kentucky Derby. That's going to wrap up this edition of It's Official. Our 5 topics are on the board, and they are now official because Jeff Siegel and I said so. Kentucky Derby draw winners and losers. Light thought that maybe Tapit Trice lost the draw. A good draw for Forte out in post 15 and Derma Sotogake in the 17. As for the overlays and underlays, we were in disagreement here. I kind of think Forte might be a good value play because he's going to go off higher than I think he should. Jeff thinks it's a shorter price, and we're both wondering if Confidence Game and Tapit Trice, where they fall in that overlay underlay. As for the pace projection, I don't know if we solved it, Jeff, but I think we were in agreement that the most likely pace setter is Reincarnate, but the possible pace setters in here could be Confidence Game and Dermasotogaki, depending on what they do from the 4 and the 17, inside, outside. But the most likely pace horse to set the tempo could be Reincarnate. Buying and selling the leading contenders as we ran through a Forte, 1 yay, 1 nay, Practical Move, 2 yays. We were both selling Tapit Trice, and Dermasotogaki got 2 thumbs up from us in our buy or sell. And as far as the Oaks Derby double, I think Wet Paint the way we want to look at that. And Jeff, as far as the Preakness pool looks, he's looking ahead to Mandarin Hero come the 3rd Saturday in May at Old Hilltop. That's a wrap for the action this week. Thanks for listening. Again, if you're watching on the first Kentucky Derby Wager Guide, we do this every Tuesday. It drops around 3 o'clock Eastern after we get the recording. We'll stream it on YouTube, on the ExpressBet YouTube page, and, of course, on social media channels as well. Jeff's been a lot of fun. Fun to disagree. We get to the race, and in 2 minutes, it's all over, and we get to start thinking about Baltimore.
Well, I tell you what, it's such an interesting race because there's so many different scenarios. It's not Vermden Alydar, which was a great 1-2 type of a situation, and nobody else mattered. Look, you can make a case for half the field. There's some Deadwood in here for sure, but hey, Deadwood won last year, so anything can happen. And it's going to be great. And by the way, great undercard at Churchill Downs, and we'll be talking about that on First Call. So I'm really looking forward to this weekend, and I just hope it's a great, safe race, and very, very exciting and great gambling opportunities.
Yeah, cheers to that. We will move up a programming note. Typically on Friday, we do the First Call podcast that handicaps races for the weekend. We will move that up to Thursday this week because of the Kentucky Oaks Day card on Friday getting such an early start. That'll give you more look at the Derby and Oaks Day races. So we will record that and drop that on Thursday this week. On behalf of Jeff Siegel and everybody with First, I'm Jeremy Plonk. Good luck in the Derby, and we'll talk to you handicapping on Thursday.